All right. Welcome, everyone. It's 3 o'clock. We'll get started. I'm sure people will join in as we're continuing, but we are going to make this available as a recording online so everybody can go back and look at certain details later. So let's get the most out of this time. Just as a quick introduction, my name is Amit Srivastav. I'm the founder and the chair for the Australian Space Architecture Challenge. And on your um, guest list there, you might see the name Albert. Albert will come on later. He's coordinating the challenge for us. So he's the person you'll be uh, communicating with if you send it out in his email. So we will have a little bit of an introduction again later when more people are here. Let's just get started with the basic background and overview, and so that we have plenty of time left later for questions. So thank you to all of you who have already registered for the challenge. And of course, if you're here to get some more information before you register, you have plenty of time. The registrations are open till the 30th of June, till the end of the month. So you still have a couple of weeks. So again, please feel free to use this particular platform as well as our Discord server to get information on the challenge. So we're really happy to be able to sort of announce the inaugural Australian Space Architecture Challenge. And we've been working with the Australian Space Agency and particularly the South Australian Space Industry Centre to put this together. And I'm here representing the Andy Thomas Centre for Space Resources at the University of Adelaide. And I'll tell you a little bit more about all of that later, but let's get on to the basic context of today's presentation. So before I go on any further, I'll just check with Albert that the slides are in complete view and I am audible. Is that correct, Albert? Can you confirm?
Yes, you're good to go, mate.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So yes, welcome everyone. As you can see in that image there, we are imagining a collaborative human-robot interaction where we have a base on the moon, but as the challenge says, it's called Moon to Mars, with a clear indication that, of course, we are part of the NASA Artemis program, looking at moon as the basis for further exploration, taking humanity to Mars itself. For the context of today's presentation, there's a couple of things I should mention in terms of resources that you should look out for. Of course, a lot of material is already available on the website, and we will keep adding to it. By the end of the participation, by the end of the registration, which will be by the end of this month, we will make a participant handbook available, which will have all of the information that we're going to talk about today, plus a few more sort of resources that you might find useful. Please stay in touch through the Space Architecture Challenge website. Of course, we're including a link here, but if you simply search for Australian Space Architecture Challenge, you should be able to get access to the website. So most of the information is already there, and we will try to make as many different resources available. What we've also set up, and many of you are already a part of that, is a Discord server to allow people to connect with each other, clarify things, but also help develop teams. This is something that is really close to our hearts. What we want is to move towards an approach to design which is multidisciplinary. And so we do encourage people to connect with each other and develop teams. And as you will see in the requirements, you can develop teams of up to 5 people to participate in this challenge. So what is the Australian Space Architecture Challenge? We had set it up mostly to develop and showcase Australian capacity in serving long-term goal of deep space human habitation. And human habitation itself in space is a complex endeavor which deals with a lot of different disciplinary expertise. And particularly, we want to see what role Australia can play in this, what is multinational sort of approach to bringing humans to the moon, bringing humans back to the moon and into deeper space. We're working closely with the Australian Space Agency, and so our endeavor is aligned with the Australian Civil Space Strategy. So it's also trying to develop capacity within the private sector for supporting space industry. And of course, the Moon to Mars initiative, as I've mentioned, looking at moon as an extension of our idea to go to Mars and further beyond. And particularly looking at what role Australia can play in all of this, not just within the context of the country itself, but also in collaborating with people from other nations. And we do know that some of you, for your teams, do have participants from other nations as part of the team, and we're very happy to see that. So the Australian Space Architecture Challenge is started this year, but we expect it to continue over the subsequent years as an annual challenge. And so the core aim for this is to create capacities and capabilities within the Australian public. But it's also a desire to engage and inspire a whole generation of people who are undoubtedly going to be part of a workforce or a space workforce in the future. So please, this is not limited by any means to architects or architecture students. It's an opportunity to everybody to engage. So if you've got colleagues who might not be architects by training, but are interested in thinking about human habitation space, please do let them know to come along, ask questions, and participate. We really want, of course, this year as an inaugural challenge, this is an ideas challenge, but we are hoping in the future that this will develop as an industry challenge, where we are going to work with industry partners looking at specific challenges and specific issues that the design can be addressed for. So it is here to support the industry. And so in the future, the idea is also that you can work together with industry in developing specific ideas that support Australian capacity in this area. And like I said, we do want Australia to work, as we have seen with the Artemis Accord, alongside multiple other countries in developing human future in space. So international engagement is deeply encouraged. And to ensure that that happens, one of the outcomes of this challenge for this year is that we are trying to exhibit the winning entries at the International Astronautical Congress, which is happening in Milan, in Italy, in October. So it's an opportunity for us to sort of engage in this space, both nationally and internationally. So just a quick overview, what is the Andy Thomas Center for Space Resources? As you will see in the bottom right corner, the Andy Thomas Center is part of the University of Adelaide. And many of us who are involved in setting this up are academics based at the University of Adelaide. The Andy Thomas Center for Space Resources was established in 2019, the same year that the Australian Space Agency moved its headquarters to Adelaide. So the Andy Thomas Center works very closely with the Australian Space Agency, which is right across the street from us at Lot 14. But also the center is an opportunity to bring across multiple disciplines into one place to talk about space and a human future in space. So we've got a lot of people from particularly engineering disciplines looking at civil and structural engineering or geotechnical engineering and mechanical engineering. But we also have on our team psychologists, lawyers, anthropologists, people looking at space agriculture. So it's a wonderful multidisciplinary context within which we are hoping that we'll be able to both support and include your vision into developing a human future in space. So please feel free to ask any questions about that as we go along to the Q&A. I do need to mention our partners who've been extremely generous in allowing this to happen. First of all, the South Australian Space Industry Centre. As I said, we do want this going into the future to be an industry challenge, and therefore engaging with the civil space industry is an integral part of what this challenge is all about. So the South Australian Space Industry Centre has been particularly valuable in helping us bring that connection to industry and ensuring that what we are doing is supported in terms of capacity by the space sector in Australia. And of course, the Australian Space Agency, which is part of the Australian government, has been extremely generous in supporting us in developing this as a national challenge. In addition to that, on the left-hand side at the bottom, you will see a series of companies or practices that are dealing with space architecture in particular, or space infrastructure development. So again, your participation in this challenge is also an opportunity to connect with these people. Sorry, we have Space Architecture Lab, which is a dedicated space architecture practice, Regulate architects who are also looking at aspects of human psychology and isolation, particularly in the context of developing space habitats, and Astroport Space Technologies, which is helping us set up all the space engineering components for developing the infrastructure for things like landing pads and stuff as we arrive on the moon. In addition to that, we also have 3 partners who are slightly outside the space sector, but directly engaging with it. We have Mini Mammoth Games, who have been extremely generous in also providing as a support to the winning entries, an opportunity to develop the winning entries into a game environment and really allow those designs to come to life. So that's been great. We've been working with Mini Mammoth Games for a while to developing games that are focused on lunar exploration and habitation. Arch Manu is actually an Australian research center funded center looking at architectural manufacturing or next generation architectural manufacturing. And of course, that is going to be an integral part of what we are thinking about as architects and engineers and thinking about construction on the moon. So there's going to be a lot of support from there. And finally, we have HEX, which is full name HEX Education, which is an education partner, and they are also providing lots of supports in terms of allowing the winning participants to take part in their entrepreneurship modules and to help them imagine taking their ideas into a startup level. So we'll give you a lot more details about that. And again, you can ask us a lot of questions as we go along. All right, so what is the design brief? We are imagining a point 100 years since we first landed on the moon. So the year is 2069. It's been 100 years since we first set moon on the surface of the moon, but we would imagine that by 2069 we would have been on the moon and established a presence for over 3 decades. So which means we're not looking at an initial idea, we're looking at the next stage of human settlement on the moon. So over these 3 decades, of course, we imagine that the human settlement on the moon has expanded, and it's an integral part of that planning for exploration into the further aspects of solar system as part of the Moon to Mars initiative. And anyone who's aware of that would know that, of course, the moon becomes a base for us to go on further to Mars. So this lunar outpost serves as both a scientific experimental facility where we are testing, of course, the capacities for human habitation in space, but also as a base of strategic mining operation to extract relevant resources to refuel the crewed mission to Mars. So with the understanding that the airships will land, of course, on the moon. They will go through a refueling process and prepare for further exploration onto Mars. So we are also imagining that at this time, we also have the Lunar Gateway Station on Moon's orbit, which is already functional, and it forms the basis of an emerging lunar economy, looking at these mining and scientific operations as part of developing a long-term presence for humans in deep space. So that's the context that we're imagining what 2069 will be. But of course, this is something that we're setting up. This is a design competition, and you're more than welcome to let your imagination soar and see what you think 2069 might be like. So the clear challenge is the bit in the middle, which is imagine a human habitat on the moon that caters to a community of up to 30 people, showcasing the innovative and sustainable evolution of lunar living and the preparation for upcoming Mars expedition. So there are 3 aspects to that. You would see, of course, we're looking at a reasonably bigger proposition for about 30 people. So it's not the early stages. Also showcasing the innovative and sustainable evolution of lunar living means that we've been here for 30 years and we need to imagine how things might have expanded or how human living might have transformed over this period of time. And finally, we are ready and prepared for upcoming Mars expeditions. So start thinking about how the habitat then works with all the other infrastructure that might be required. Having set that up, I think we wanted to be very clear that we are not limiting this to architects. And in fact, many of us dream about human presence in deep space, in which case it's an ideas competition, and most other people are also welcome to take part into it. And if you've not really dreamt about it yourself, I'm sure there's heaps of movies and comic books and video games that deal with this topic, and we expect that people will sort of refer back to those and help them envision a future where these kind of things might be possible as part of human settlement. So you are encouraged to play at the boundaries of reality and imagination. Please don't restrict yourself too much at this stage and contribute a vision to what human presence on the moon will be like. All right, so where is the site? The site is the Shackleton-Degerlach Ridge, which is a 12-kilometer strip of land between the Shackleton crater and the Digger-Large Crater. We have an image over here, but there's lots of other resources that are available through the website as well, where you can get a better understanding of the lighting conditions. You can get a better understanding of the slope of the site and why it is an ideal site that we're imagining as part of the NASA Artemis mission for a settlement on the moon. So we will make these slides available and you can use the links from here, but also on our website, we have these resources that you should definitely access and try and get a better sense of the opportunities that you've got. There's a 3D model of the lunar South Pole that can be purchased. There is a lunar South Pole atlas that is there. There's a time lapse of the lighting condition and a range of other presentations and support stuff from NASA establishing what the values of this particular site are, and that could be a basis of starting your design process. So who can register if you haven't already registered, or if you're imagining that you want to be part of a team? The competition is open to pretty much anybody around the world as long as they are connected somehow to the Australian university system. So of course, current university students, as well as people who've graduated from Australian universities, both Australian residents and international students who've graduated from an Australian university from the last 5 years can participate. But please remember, like I said in the beginning, we deeply encourage the use of teams, and you can form teams of up to 5 members, where only the team lead needs to be a student or graduate from the Australian university, which means you can always have international participants as part of the team. If you don't already have that opportunity, you can always join our Discord server and maybe find other people and form a team with them. So that's what it says. If you're not affiliated with the university, consider joining the team. And particularly, I would encourage that we're not just looking at people from the same discipline, that you are bringing in other disciplinary opportunities. So if you are somebody who's dealing with robotics or psychology, maybe kind of join in with somebody who is from architecture or design, and then sort of see how the team could function. Anyway, finally, if you do need help forming a team and you're unable to do that by yourself, reach out to us. There are often people who contact us directly, and maybe we can put you in touch with somebody. There's some simple conditions for participation. Most of this is very obvious, but I should highlight a few of them. Participants can only be part of one submission. This is, of course, to make sure that you don't have multiple submissions coming through the same people and everybody gets a chance. Participants needs to ensure the originality of their submitted work. Again, shouldn't be required to say, but of course, we wouldn't like you sort of taking work from somewhere else and putting it in here. But on the other hand, we'd also not like work that you have already submitted somewhere else or some other competition to be part of this. So originality is important. Very rapidly, the AI landscape is changing, so I think we need to put it out there. AI-generated graphics and design outcomes are not allowed as final submission. What that really means is that, yes, if you do use AI as part of your design process, that is absolutely fine, but you have to make sure that the final design outcome that you are putting in for the competition has to be something that you have prepared, which includes all the design details as well as renderings. By all means, as a preparatory opportunity, if you want to use AI systems, you're more than welcome to do that. And that is something I think is expected in today's environment for that to be happening. Published works, which are already published as papers or patents or any kind of submission for other competitions, are definitely not allowed as part of this. Again, to make sure that we have a capacity to show your work around and ensure its originality in all process. Again, if you've got any kind of questions about any of this, feel free to ask in the Q&A afterwards. Coming to the fun bits, and the prizes, we are lucky to have a generous contribution from our sponsors. And so we have cash prizes. The winning entry is going to get 3,000 Australian dollars, followed up by a runner-up for 2,000 Australian dollars, and the second runner-up at 1,000 Australian dollars. In addition to this, like I said, the winning entries will also be featured at the International Astronautical Congress in Milan in October. And in the beginning, as I said, some of the sponsors are also providing special prizes, which include developing the winning entries into a video game environment with our Mini Mammoth Games supporters, and also working with access to free educational resources which support entrepreneurship and access to developing things like transforming your ideas into a startup. So there are all these things that might be there. We'll give you more details as we go along, but there are these prizes in addition to the cash prizes that are available. The deliverables are quite straightforward. We are only looking for one single poster. It's a reasonably large poster at an A0 size, but it's a single poster. So you have to make sure that it conveys all aspects of your design concept and is also aesthetically pleasing because it will be exhibited. So it has to be clear, aesthetically pleasing, and effectively convey all the aspects that you think are innovative or inventive in terms of your design. Nobody really likes a lot of text on these posters, so please keep that to a limited amount. But yes, please provide a short description of the main concepts and broader narratives or explanatory diagrams to make sure that the jury members can understand where the value of the proposition lies. In addition to that, of course, as a design proposition, you will need to have overall site response, which explains how you're engaging with the site in terms of the habitat, but also other services and resources that might be required, and some plans, sections, and elevation, as well as appropriate 3D views or renderings that you might think are appropriate to explain the project. It's a single PDF file that you will be uploading. We will give you the details of where you need to upload it later, but it's a single PDF file of a maximum file size of 75 MB. We think that is reasonable. If there is some other issue, again, feel free to reach out to us. It's going to be an A0 size in a vertical or portrait format. Please be mindful of the format because, again, for the exhibition, the format is limited and we need to make sure that it complies with the exhibition format. The A0 size has to be at 300 DPI, again, because we will be printing the winning entries for the exhibition and we want to make sure that the resolution is reasonable. To submit it, of course, PDF will be the preferred format to make sure that all the line work is maintained in terms of its fidelity. The deadline for submission is 31st of August, so we do have plenty of time. So we will provide a particular file naming convention and we'll give you a submission link of where you can upload the file to. All right, now a few important points I want to go through in terms of things you should consider for the design submission. So as you can see with the jury members, we have a few people who are from architecture, particularly myself, Professor Urs Vetter, who's the program director for architecture here, and Enzo Ferraro from Greg-Gillette Architects. But we also have Sam Jimenez, who has a space engineering background and is a CEO for Astroport Space Technologies, looking at particularly aspects of the fundamental resources that we require for landing pads and things like that to ensure our presence on the moon. Deborah Turnbull, who's the chair of psychology here, will also bring in aspects of human factors and psychological dimensions to the design to look for that. And we also have our artist in residence, Johnny Dady, who's going to look at it from an aesthetics perspective, but also a communications perspective. So it's a pretty varied team. And I just want to point that out so that you ensure that you're addressing some of those issues. And you know that if you are, that there are jury members who will be able to recognize the value of that. There are 4 things to consider as our judging criteria. There is design, innovation, and creativity. And again, that is important because it is an ideas competition and we are looking for your proposition for what you imagine 2069 might look like. Aside from that, we have technical feasibility and sustainability. Now, this doesn't mean that all the projects have to address all these criteria. All it means is that these are areas that we will look for in terms of understanding what the design value for the project is. So technical feasibility and sustainability. So if you are oriented that way and you are looking at this as a technical challenge and you're looking at creating a feasible response, please highlight that in your design submission and the jury will take that into account. On the other hand, there would be designs that focus necessarily on the human factors and the human experience of living in space and these environments, and that might be a consideration. So please, you can address all four of them or highlight some of them that become more important for you, and please make that clear on your poster, and the jury will take that into account. And finally, please remember it's a competition which we expect to show to a general public. So the communication presentation needs to be clear, shouldn't be too technical. It should be clear so that a general person in the audience can understand what the proposition is about. So based on that, I will just give you a very quick set of notes and suggestions. These are also there on our website. And again, these are just suggestions. So please feel free to consider your own position on these. The originality and innovative thinking, of course, are paramount. As an ideas competition, we're looking for submissions that are going to break new grounds and will showcase a unique approach. One of the reasons for this is it's very easy in an industrial and a government context to fall into a repetitive trap of doing the same things again and again, because you establish that that's what works. So an opportunity like this is to bring new approaches, and that's an opportunity for you to show how we could approach these things differently. So please take that into account. Your design should capture the imagination, but also reflect a thoughtful reinterpretation of traditional concepts in a way that could apply to lunar conditions. So please push the boundaries of what's possible for the moon. Having said that, I did mention technical feasibility and sustainability. That seems like a reasonable topic to consider. So if you are practically oriented in terms of what you are producing, you might want to consider things like existing space travel technologies, launch vehicle sizes, landing systems, and how your design relates to those things. And that's particularly for components of your design that you might be taking from Earth to the moon. If, on the other hand, you are considering materials and production systems that are going to use in situ resources, of course, in situ resource utilization, or ISRU, is a fundamental approach that we are hoping for habitats on the moon. So please consider that, whether it is use of regoliths or use of other resources that might be there for developing a habitat. Please feel free to leverage AI technologies and robotics as a way to imagine how these things would be constructed and maintained over a period of time. And if you've got expertise in these areas, of course, or if there are people in your team who have expertise in these areas, that would be something to highlight as part of your submission as well. Again, in addition to in situ resources, there's lots of discussions that are happening in terms of advanced materials that we can use to create structures that might need to be taken from Earth, and that's another area that you could look at. And in all of this, the underlying issue remains sustainability, which is, of course, trying to figure out how these things can be done at a reasonable cost, but also at a reasonable level of repairability or maintenance, which is going to be particularly important in the harsh environmental conditions of the moon. So a strong entry is not only detailing an effective sort of construction system, but also integrating it with life support systems, innovative energy solutions, and ensuring the safety and well-being of the inhabitants. On the other hand, you could focus on the human factors and experience of it all. So making sure that the human element of your design is center to the design approach. It could include things like the habitat design itself, trying to understand the layout of these things, or movements of people, particularly looking at exercise equipment or specialist movement of human activity in the lower gravity environment. This is the physical components of the human factors, but there's also psychological needs. So your design could focus on issues like privacy, isolation, social interaction. How do you maintain connection to Earth and ensure that the mental health and morale of the inhabitants is taken care of? So again, if this is something that you are focusing on, then please ensure that that is clear on your proposal, and the jury will take that into account. There's lots of research happening on ensuring circadian rhythm, natural sleep cycles, or simply looking at the issues of safety and injury within participants while they're there. So please consider that we are not just looking for survival. We are hoping that we can stay there for a long period of time, and we need to develop something that will allow us to thrive. And finally, I would sort of say communication is key. So yes, you might have great ideas, but you need to clearly and effectively present them. Please make your posters as visually engaging as possible. Include diagrams and descriptions and visuals that convey your vision to a broader audience. All right, I'm coming very rapidly to the end of the presentation side of it. So we have about half an hour more for question and answers. Just a reminder that the registration closes on 30th of June. So we will make this available as a recording online. So if there are people you know who were not able to attend today's session, they can look at it online as well. And after that, we have another couple of months, and the submission deadline is 31st of August. So please keep that in mind. We will announce the winners a couple of weeks after that, and then prepare to exhibit the material at the IAC in October. So just to recap, the participant handbook will be available by the end of the month. Please keep going back to the website to get information. Much of what I've said today is already there. And please join the community on the Discord server. When you go online or look through the slide set here, please use the links that we provided. And again, if you find other useful resources, please feel free to share them through the Discord server. Keep the judging criteria in mind. Like I said, there are 4 criteria. You don't need to address all of them, but make sure that you're clear what your core focus is so that the judges could address that. And again, form a team on Discord. Try to be multidisciplinary in your team and in your approach to try to get the most value out of this. And remember, the submission deadline is 31st of August. So having said that, I'm going to now move to Q&A. But before we do that, I did want to introduce Albert. Albert, if you can put on your camera for a minute. So hi, everybody. So that's Albert. Albert is the coordinator for the challenge. And if you can always reach out to him via that email, or send out a question through the form on our website, and that also goes to Albert, and he will be able to respond. Okay, so we're just now going to open to the Q&A. And again, I saw that a few things popped up in the chat, so I will have a look through some of those. In the meanwhile, please keep adding stuff there, and we will respond. Okay, so somebody has asked that our background image is AI generated, and can mixed media approaches that use AI as part of the process are allowed? Yes, absolutely. As long as the final process or the final image or the final design or the drawings that you submit are significantly yours with some components that might be used for AI, that's absolutely fine. A good example I would give is if you're writing an essay and you use AI systems to help you proofread certain components of it or check some grammar here or there, that's absolutely fine to do. But asking the AI to generate the entire essay for you is not okay. So keep that in mind. Yes, we are living in a world where we have these tools available. So it would be inappropriate for me to consider that people are not going to use the tools, but we do want that you are ultimately responsible for the design and the visuals that you produce. So yes, a mixed media approach which uses aspects of AI is absolutely possible, but your design should come through as your work in the end. And again, feel free to ask for further clarification if you need. How strict is the site location? Are, for instance, lunar lava tubes a potential location? At this stage, we are hoping that we are going to keep this as the site location. So I am not willing to open up the site location just yet. However, I do understand that if some of you have very specific focus on lunar lava tubes as your solution, then of course the site is extremely restrictive. If that's the case, please send us an email and I will check with the jury and see if we can include certain submissions that look at lunar lava tubes, if that is a possibility. I'm sorry, I can't give a clear answer on that because I do need to keep the entire jury's approach on that when I respond. So yes, please send that as an email and I will check and respond to you separately. There's another question. How would you like referencing to be handled in the submission? Okay, the one thing about referencing is that it needs to be consistent. I'm not particularly fussed about style because, of course, some of you might be more used to one style or the other, and we don't need to be very strict about what style it is, as long as it is consistent. So whether you're using an APA style referencing or Chicago style referencing or whatever, please feel free to include that in the style that is suited to you. Of course, referencing has a format, so please use that within. If there's a few references, please use that on the sheet. If for some reason you think you need to provide an extended bibliography, when you submit, we will ensure that we give you an opportunity to submit that separately, but only if it causes too much of a problem for the visuals. So if it's only a few references, then I think that should be on the poster and not submitted separately. So the next question is from Arya Patel. This is to confirm if people outside of Australian university system can be a part of a team. Yes, absolutely. Not only can you be a part of the team, we highly encourage that. As I said, one of the reasons we have set this challenge up is to make sure that we, like the Artemis Accord itself, are looking at how Australians can be part of a global effort towards bringing humans to space. So we expect that our people here, whether they're students or graduates from the Australian system, they collaborate with other people around the world to do that. Having said that, I should also sort of say, just because you've studied at an Australian university doesn't mean you're an Australian resident. So it's also possible that, let's say, for example, we had an international student who's completed their studies here 3 or 4 years ago and have gone back to their own country. They're also more than welcome to take on the leadership role in that. And in that context, of course, they might be working with people in their home country where they're back at now. So absolutely, people who are not directly part of the Australian university system are more than welcome to take part, as long as they're working with somebody who's a team leader who is a student or graduate on the Australian university. Hopefully that answers your question, Arya. Are academics employed at Australian universities eligible to supervise student teams? So that's it's a tricky thing. The question is, yes, when students or anybody is working on a project, they're more than welcome to speak to mentors or others to get some guidance on it. We wouldn't call this a proper supervision relationship because, unlike other kind of challenges, this is not a university team with a supervisor situation that we're setting up. But yes, of course, if there is a team from a university and they want to talk to their teachers and get some mentorship or supervision on what they're doing, that they can. It just won't be recorded as a supervisory relationship. Okay. Okay, I'm going to just skip the question on the flat earth stuff there. Thank you, Shiv. Harvey, will collaboration be accounted for in the judgment criteria? Of course, there are benefits of working collaboratively, but will solo/team submissions be penalized? No, absolutely not. Solo submissions or team submissions are not, I wouldn't say not only will they be not penalized, of course, but we also don't want to sort of say that we are giving any credit to one more than the other. When assessing the work, we will, of course, take into account that the proposition that's been put forward is in relationship to the effort that a person can put through. So, of course, if there's a 5-people team, the expectation of what that produces might be different from somebody who is going in as themselves. So we're not saying one is preferred to the other, but of course, in taking that into account, we will consider how much somebody can develop an idea if they're working as a solo participant versus a team participant. Great. All right. Thank you, Harvey. I think, yeah, Albert's also sort of working on the chat to address some of those questions there. So yes, please feel free to ask more questions. And even if you need sort of assistance, like I said, we had some suggestions on things that you could do. If you need any assistance with anything that you're doing, that's one of the values of this Discord server. You can always reach out and clarify things as you go along as well. And we're more than happy to provide that sort of support. All right. There's no more questions coming in through chat that I can see. I'm happy to sort of wait along. What I could do, and I think which might be valuable, is to very quickly show, I'm going to stop sharing here for a second, and I'm going to very quickly show you the website and just sort of demonstrate where all of this information is in case you want to access it on the website. And in the meanwhile, if you've got any questions, please feel free to put that in the Q&A or the chat. Okay, I'm going to sorry, hopefully you can see the webpage. Albert, can you confirm that you can see the webpage?
Yes, Amit, go ahead.
Yeah. Right. So if you just simply search for Australian Space Architecture Challenge, you should arrive on our main page here, which of course has the basic ideas and stuff there. But you've got these 4 categories here, and I'm going to go through them in just a second, and then some basic information on the prizes and our partners below. You can, if you want to contact me directly, you can contact here or contact organizers, which would lead you to Albert for smaller clarification of things. If you go to About the Competition, that explains how we're working with the Australian Space Agency and the Australian Civil Space Strategy and what aspects of that we are trying to incorporate as we develop this challenge. Again, this is the first year, so if you've got comments on that, please let us know because it will help us develop this into the future. Then there's a registrations page itself. So again, if you haven't registered, you need to have your team lead. All the information of in terms of your eligibility are again repeated here, including the fact that people need to be students or graduates and have teams of 5 members. If you have a university affiliation and your year of completion, you need that. And if you need to add details of the team members, just press the add button here and you can add more names. Or simply use it for any questions or comments and submit it, and it'll go to Albert to look for details. Most of the stuff that I've talked about today is available under this link, which is information for participants. If you click that, you will see that there's the design brief, there is the site and the jury members, which are directly available, but then details on the deliverables, the judging criteria. I've just mentioned the 4 criteria and how they're considered, as well as most of the notes and suggestions around the technical feasibility and human factors that I've just talked about are also included here. Finally, at the beginning of the presentation, I talked about links and useful resources. So if you go to useful resources here, you will find links to all sorts of things, including the 3D model and the lighting conditions on the South Pole and so on and so forth. So hopefully you've got all the information here. Finally, I just want to sort of say that if you haven't joined the Discord community, you've got the link to the Discord community right here on the top that you can click and join at any time. Okay, I saw a few other things pop up in the chat, so let me return to that. Okay, so yes, there's one question about how big a team can be. The limit on the team is 5 people. Again, so there'll be 1 lead, and then we can have the 4 people. So the 1 lead at least has to be a graduate or student from Australian University, but the other 4 people don't necessarily have to be. But the limit is 5 people. Is there an age restriction? Okay, on both ends. So there is no age restriction going up. Of course, all of us are students at all stages. And again, there is no restriction going down as well. So if you are at a high school, that is absolutely fine. Except I would still think that the lead for the team should be one person who is in the university system. If you are a purely high school team and you're planning to do that, again, send us an email with the details and I'll speak with the Inspire program of the Australian Space Agency to sort of see how we could incorporate that. So if you are if you're a high school student who wants to be part of a team where there is a university graduate or student leading the team, then it's absolutely fine. You're more than welcome to. But if you're planning to set up a purely high school team, please send me an email and I will work with the Inspire program of the Space Agency to figure out how we could do that. The next question by Rob is, can someone who's employed at an Australian university but is also currently enrolled as a student enter as part of team? Absolutely, yeah. Your employment has got nothing to do with this. You might be employed at the university or you might be employed elsewhere, as long as you're part of the university system and you are a student or immediate graduate. So it is possible that somebody who's graduated within the last 5 years is now employed at the same university, which is absolutely fine, not a problem at all. In which media will the winning entry be advertised, locally or internationally? So we will share more details on that. So currently the aim is for the International Astronautical Congress, the Space Architecture Exhibition there as one of the places where we will be doing this. In addition to this, our partners, which includes the South Australia Space Industry Centre and the Australian Space Agency, as well as the private partners, they will be incorporating stuff through their own advertising and marketing material. I'm also working towards an exhibition in Australia, possibly early next year, where in addition to the winning entries, we will also talk about the Australian Space Architecture Challenge in general, and maybe include others which receive special mention from the jury. That one is not confirmed yet because we're still trying to figure out the location for that. But of course, we'll keep you updated on this. Next question is from Biswajit. Can we add in more team members once registered? Yes, I don't think that's any problem. Just keep us updated on that so that we are aware of it. Until 30th of June, that's absolutely no problem. If you're planning to do that after 30th June, please send us an email and I'll check with the team here to see if there is any issue. Next question by Harvey. If a participating team produces a resource that would be helpful for all teams, are we able to share with others? For instance, I produce an accurate site topology map that everybody would otherwise have to produce separately. You're a legend, Harvey. That's absolutely encouraged, and that would be brilliant if you are happy to share those resources. Again, one of the reasons we've set the Discord server is so that people can talk to each other and help elevate everybody's game. So the reason, one of the things we didn't call it a competition, we called it a challenge, is that I don't want it to be seen as a competition in the sense of putting other people down to get your work up. The more we work together, the more everybody's work gets better. So absolutely, if there are others like Harvey who are happy to share some resources that they've developed, which will help everybody produce better work so they don't waste their time doing background material, that would be absolutely encouraged and appreciated. So yes, please share that with us. You can share it directly to the Discord server, or you can share it with us and we could put it up as well. Thank you so much for that, Harvey. Okay, I think that was the last that we had up there. We're almost coming to the end of the hour. I will just continue for a few more minutes. So again, if you've got any other questions, please feel free to put it on the chat. Otherwise, a simple reminder that all of the stuff that we've said is available for the most part on the website already. And we will put up the recording for this session along with the information and the Q&A online. So if you know others who were unable to make today's session, please ask them to join in. So just a quick final sort of reminder, join the Discord server, help form teams. If you've got any questions about that, please contact us directly. Stay engaged. It's only a couple of months. And if we support, like Harvey is most generously offered, if we support each other, we can really help elevate the quality of the work, but also make a good name for what we are doing here in Australia and when presenting it at an international forum like the IAC in Milan. Just on that topic, a reminder that the IAC, or the International Astronautical Congress, is actually coming to Sydney next year. So in 2025, we are hosting the IAC in Sydney, in Australia. So this will be a great opportunity to get that relationship started and then continue to do more interesting stuff when IAC arrives here. So please stay in touch, collaborate with each other, and collaborate with us to get everything going. And of course, enjoy the creative process. For those of you who are students, we've timed it in such a way that you will have the mid-year break between the semesters to be able to work together and get this done. We are definitely available all the time if you've got any questions or things that you need to clarify. Anything that we can support in terms of your creative endeavors would be great. So just a final reminder that the submission deadline is 31st of August, so please plan your work accordingly. There is one other question that's popped up. When it comes to final outcomes, is there certain views that we have to present, or is it a matter of using views that will help us communicate our narrative? The latter, absolutely. Use the views that will help communicate your narrative. There's no restriction on what kinds of views or what kinds of 3D or render or something that's required. It's an ideas competition, and we are fully relying on the participants to make a judgment call on what's the best way to represent their design. And that would also depend on different capacities and capabilities and backgrounds and how the team is formed. So of course, if you have team members who have great capacity to render things in infinite detail, you might want to choose to do that. On the other hand, if that's not your forte, you might choose another way to represent your design. The most important thing is that you communicate the core ideas and why your design is innovative, or how its approach to human habitation on the moon is particularly valuable for the way we think about it. So hopefully that answers your question, Miles. So if there's any last second questions, please put that up in the chat. Otherwise, we'll call this session to an end. And I would like to thank everybody for spending their time and coming in for this. And please do let others know, because the resource will be available as a recording online. And so they will have access to it as well. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to seeing all your work in the near future. Thank you so much.